So let's talk about Gikonyo and Mumbi. Um, in a way, they are the structure of this novel. They are the kind of the supporting pillars. So Gikonyo was, a childhood friend of Mugo and of Kihika, someone who's also took the freedom oath, was a freedom fighter, was held in detention, and confessed to taking the oath, which is kind of the thing that they were all kind of holding out to not confess, to kind of resist the British authority. And he's confessed. He is released when he confesses. Gikonyo is married to Mumbi. Mumbi is Kihika's sister, and kind of also need to bring in Karanja, who I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a minute. But Karanja is a kind of rival of Gikonyo, and even we can kind of see from way back they were rivals as kids, and they have this in their youth, and they have this race. They actually have two races, and the races are really nice in that we see these characters struggling for. Thinking that they can, we run this race, and whoever wins this race kind of wins life. And particularly, there's a narrative that they're racing for Mumbi's love, because she's incredibly beautiful, and both Gikonyo and Karanja are in love with her. And in both races, it makes absolutely no difference who wins the race in terms of who gets Mumbi. Of course it doesn't. And that kind of suggests that the direction that we think we're heading in isn't always the thing that actually gets us what we want, which is what is kind of being suggested with this. Okay, we're getting this freedom, but is it actually going to give us the things that we think it is going to give us? Are we running the right race, or are we maybe losing track of what we really want, what's going to be our ultimate prize? Mumbi's role within this text is quite interesting. She has an interesting kind of feminine power, and the women here, they are quite incidental in a lot of ways, and they are very much kind of shown in their relationship to men. They're all wives and lovers and mothers, and but her beauty gives her a real power, particularly with Mugo. The one thing that I just need to kind of establish, which I'm sure you've gotten from reading the novel, is that Mumbi has had an affair with Karanja in Gikonyo's absence. So Karanja being the one who the one who kind of won the race as a child, but didn't win Mumbi, and kind of betrayed the oath that he took. Said, no, fine, I confess, I took this freedom oath, but I'm happy to now come and work for the British, and works for the British. In the novel, we see him working kind of at the station. So all the time that that Gikonyo is in detainment, we know that, well, at first we just know that she has had a child by another man. And then we kind of get her story, and we see her immense suffering, the hunger, how often Karanja came to help her, and how often she sort of turned him away. And then she finally gives in to him the day that he tells her Gikonyo is going to be released. And it's not entirely clear kind of what happens, but she just kind of gets overwhelmed in that moment. And they do have sex, and she has a child by him, and Gikonyo returns. Sometime later, he returns, and he finds her with this child. He finds his wife with another man's child, and is absolutely, overwhelmed, devastated by this. And this has entirely ruined their relationship. Now, Mumbi is a communicative force, and that is so important. Gikonyo returns, and he doesn't talk to her, he doesn't talk to the child, he keeps resisting her, and we have quite a few moments within their house. We see bits of them sort of talking to each other and just not properly talking. You know, he finally snaps at one point and tells her what he thinks of her, and, you know, he calls her a whore. And she says, oh, that's what you think of me, which just shows they haven't even been arguing about this in all the time that they've kind of been back and living together. But they are both desperate to offload their troubles. Gikonyo tries to talk to Mugo, and it takes a bit of effort to actually talk to Mugo. Mugo doesn't know what to say when he hears this story, but he sort of takes it in and is like, oh gosh, right, wow. He hears Gikonyo's woes, and then he talks to Mumbi. And Mumbi tells him her side of the story. I've put up a nice quote there where she said, it already makes me feel better to have opened my heart to you. You know, look at that section. It's page 145 in this copy. But the amount of time she talks about how important it is to talk, how important communication is. And at first Mugo doesn't really talk back to her, but then it is her that he finally comes to confess to, and he tells her about betraying her brother. And she isn't angry. She doesn't, you know, immediately thirst for his blood. You know, she doesn't want to kill him. She doesn't even, you know, say, okay, he's the one. You know, she wants the bloodshed to stop. She wants the anger to stop. She wants communication, community to start. Her only kind of anxiety is that she knows that Karanja is going to be accused of betraying Gahika, and so she's kind of saying, well, what do I do? One of these people is going to die. Like, you know, if Mugo doesn't confess, Karanja will probably be killed. Which she is ultimately spared by kind of having to make any decision with that, because Mugo does come and confess. But the separation between Gikonyo and Mumbi kind of, in the very last chapter, there's a hint that it will be overcome. In the very last chapter, it's not numbered. The last couple of chapters aren't numbered, but just named after the characters. So we have a Karanja chapter, a Mugo chapter. I think we have one of Warui and Wambui, and then we have this last chapter, which is Harambe. Which Harambe is, as you'll see here on the slide, a Kishwali term meaning altogether. It is an idea of community. And in this kind of this final chapter, we have a suggestion. He's thinking about Mumbi. You know, we know that he didn't properly talk to her the first time she kind of came to see him, but there is this idea that she came alone and they talk together, and they sort of start to say, that they will talk. It is the first step. It's not a wonderful reconciliation, it's not joy, it's not an absolute forgiveness, but they start to take these steps, and he starts to think about having a child with her. What would his child look like? His and Mumbi's child look like? Gikonyo sort of starts thinking about this. And he has this carving, this stool that he's been carving. And he says, oh, maybe I'll start to carve this woman's face. So on the stool we have a man and a woman and a child, which is the family that they currently have. The child is not his child, but he, you know, those are the kind of the three people there in the house. And he says, well, maybe I'll start to change this carving. That's the very last line of the novel, is maybe I'll change the carving so that the woman is big with child, so the woman is pregnant, which is starting to say, well, maybe we can have a family, maybe we can come together, we'll have children of the two of us, and they just kind of, you know, they need to talk. So actually this line, if you just look at the very last, the last couple of paragraphs, Gikonyo asks, will you go back to the house? Will you light the fire and see things don't decay? And she considers this a while, turned her head aside, then she looked at him directly in the eyes. No, Gikonyo, people try to rub out things, but they cannot. Things are not so easy. What has passed between us is too much to be passed over in a sentence. We need to talk, to open our hearts to one another, examine them, and then together plan the future that we want. So it's not a let's just forget everything. The past is there and we have to engage with it. We have to talk about it. And there is a coming together here. There is a sense that I think in this novel Mugo kind of has to die because he is such an isolated character. How does he come into community? I think Ngugi is sort of grappling with that, saying, what do we do with these people who are outside of community? How can we have community when people are isolated, not really for any fault of their own? What is the right thing? I mean, you can absolutely understand why Mugo betrays Kahiko. It's not because he hates Kahiko, it's not because he doesn't believe in the movement, it's because he's frightened of the position he's been put in. He isn't allowed to exist alone anymore. And what we need is community, is a coming together. It is this Harambe, this idea of all of us in working together. And Gikonyo and Mumbi kind of are here as this love story that is fractured, something that is broken by the violence, by the conflict. And they are the symbol of hope at the end of this novel, that the grain of wheat, it's going to grow again. We're going to have new life and a new future. And they are very starkly contrasted by the next couple of characters that we're going to look at, Karanja and the Thompsons, the kind of the British side of things.